Hello, Ripplers of all shapes and stripes. I am so excited to be here with the November Patreon Peep call that we've opened up to everyone. Hope for the holidays. And if you've seen me speak, you know I like to start with a couple deep breaths and the words here on the inhale and now on the exhale. So do yourself and do me a favor and take a couple deep breaths. Think the word here as you inhale, now as you exhale. And each month we do something besides a here now to help get us grounded and ready to go. And today we're rotating around to my friend Toby's 3 questions. He asks at the beginning of a lot of his presentations, are you physically present right now? How do you know? Notice yourself, look around and see some colors, touch yourself, know that you're physically here. Are you mentally present? Have you set aside some of the things that are going on so that you can really be here? And then the third question, are you emotionally present? Are you available with your full range of emotions today? We're going to laugh some. We're going to ponder some. I'm probably, hopefully, going to move you out of your comfort zone some. And discomfort sometimes brings up frustrations, sometimes a little sadness too. I want you to be able to feel lots of feels in addition to thinking lots of thoughts. And then when we dive into our content, if you read Ripples, you know that every week we do a pebble, a short quote, a boulder, something a little bit longer, and a ponder, the part that I write where we think. Well, these monthly calls have a pebble, a quick resource to share, a boulder, a activity of some kind that I'm using personally and professionally, and then ponder, we dive in to cover the topic. If you happen to have Apple TV, you may know about Prince Harry and Oprah Winfrey, 2 folks who live in Santa Barbara. They met for coffee and talked about their passion around mental health issues. And they teamed up to executive produce a series that is called The Me You Don't See. And it's airing on Apple TV right now. And it is remarkable. Every episode has some really significant conversations around mental health. They talk about their own struggles. They're interviewing a wide variety of people. Some are well known, some are people that we don't necessarily know, and really trying to normalize conversations about mental health and being vulnerable and sharing diagnoses and treatments and the fears. And the episode I watched 2 nights ago had Zach Williams, Robin Williams' son, talking about his dad's journey with addiction and mental health, and the impact of his father's death by suicide on his own life. And then he shares very openly his own struggles with substance use, and really fascinated me to talk about how he was really using cocaine and weed and a bunch of really big drugs ultimately as a way to manage some of his mental health. And it turned out that for him, those were really not healthy, not useful ways for him to manage some diagnoses that he wasn't ever given. So he was dealing with these symptoms without knowing he wasn't dumb, he wasn't weak, he needed some help. And just a great series. So I recommend it. I think it's even worth spending a few dollars on Apple. And yes, KD, this recording will be available afterwards. If you remember to email me and ask me for it, I will certainly make that available to anyone. Let me quickly copy and paste. I try during these to copy and paste links into the chat window. So if your chat window isn't open, you may want to open it. And if you can't see it on the device you're using, there's a couple things. There is a way for you to download the chat transcript. And if you look over in the, I forgot where they told me to do it. I think there's a little button over by the chat window. We'll cover that at the end too. But I'm also happy to share anything. You just reach out to me by responding to the registration email, and I'll get that to you. The boulder, so the pebble is Oprah and Prince Harry. The boulder, I'd like to do a quick activity that I was just writing for a December ripples that I'm going to be I'm doing ripples in advance for a few weeks so I can take some downtime in December. And it's called a loving kindness meditation or metta meditation. It's a Buddhist tradition, and it's where you repeat several phrases, applying them first to yourself and then to a series of other people. Usually it's you do it to yourself, and then you think of somebody you care about and repeat the mantras, directing it towards them, and then towards someone you know but not really well, somebody who's a sort of stranger in your life, the male person, the person you see every once in a while that you don't really know. And then you think of somebody you don't like or that you're struggling to connect with and repeat the phrases. And then you end it by sending it out to all people or all beings. And I'll give you an example of a simple one that I do sometimes, where I start maybe with a here now breath, and then I just say to myself, may I be happy. May I be healthy. May I be at peace. And then I think of somebody that's really close to me. Right now, I'm thinking of my best friend, Ron. So I'll pop Ron into my brain and I'll say, Ron, may you be happy. May you be healthy. May you be at peace. And then I'll think of somebody, and since I said my mail person, Mike, has been delivering our mail, I whip out to talk to him every once in a while. I don't really know him. I don't know anything about his life. So I'm going to choose him, and I'm going to think, Mike, may you be happy. May you be healthy. May you be at peace. And then we think of somebody that we're struggling to connect with, and see if you can think of somebody right now that's really hard for you to have compassion towards. And just experiment right now. It may feel a little uncomfortable. You may not be able to do it. You'll need to pick somebody else. But see if you can say, be happy. May you be healthy. May you be at peace. And then you end it by sending this out to all humans or all sentient beings. May you all be happy. May you all be healthy. May you all be at peace. And then we dive into hope for the holidays. I had three things that came to mind with a holiday themed Zoomy Zoom with you all. Gratitude, it's an obvious, I do gratitude for ripples every Thanksgiving. Grace, cutting ourselves some slack, cutting other people some slack. And then finally, this was a twist for some people, grit. Perseverance and passion towards a long-term goal is the definition of grit, the psychological trait that Angela Duckworth talks about that I think is such a useful concept. And knowing that the holidays can be a really good time and a really hard time for some people. And this year, I think it'll be different hard than last year, but kind of like last year was the weirdest holiday time for lots of us in lots of years. Well, this one is a new hard, possibly strange time. And I will tell you, when I asked you all in the registration, what do you think your holidays will be like? There were lots of you that shared some good things you're looking forward to, some hard things. Some people are really looking forward to being alone again this year. Some people are really sad about being alone this year. Some people are really excited about returning to large family gatherings. Some of you expressed worry about it and weren't sure that you were ready for it, or you kind of liked doing the smaller thing or the solo thing last year. I will tell you one of the things that struck me most as I looked through the 200 responses between last night's session and today's, the number of the amount of loss, the number of people. So many people lost a parent. A few of you lost both parents. Some of you lost a child, a loved one, a pet. So much loss in addition to all the things that we've given up in the last 20 months. And somebody wrote, trying to pretend I'm not at a loss. And I thought that was interesting. We're going to talk about, why do we need to pretend that we're losing and that we're grieving at this time? I don't think we have to choose between celebrating some of the good and honoring some of the hard stuff. I love that somebody wrote, when I asked them, what do you hope for the holidays? Sad, or what do you think your holidays will be like? Sad and stressful with hints of gratefulness. I thought that was a realistic way of looking at what sounds like it's going to be hard for the holidays for that person. Trying to make it normal. And as somebody who's been called weird all of his life, I think normal is often an overrated thing, but we'll come talk about that. I had a great exchange with someone. I can't remember if you're on the call today, but about making space for magic. She's had a tumultuous year and is determined to make space for magic. And I want to make some space for magic as we explore a couple things today. But before we dive in, I have some props for us today. And I've got my bag of marshmallows because I want to ask you, if you're making hot cocoa, how many marshmallows is the right number of marshmallows to put into your hot cocoa? You can make your way over to the chat if you want to add a number and tell us your vote. But what I will tell you, enough to cover the top, a huge handful. Kathy says 4. Some people say none. Some people say it depends on the size of the marshmallows. Depends on the time of year. Sometimes I like it, sometimes I don't. Here is the truth. The number of marshmallows that you put into your cup depends. And what you get out of this session today, how many pieces of this are relevant to you for today and for now, it depends. I promise you, not all of this is going to be for you. Some of it is going to push you in directions that you don't want to go today. Don't go there. Because when I was designing this session, I had 2 chunks of content that I was choosing between, and then I found a way to get it all squeezed in. And I'm going to turn on the share screen here quickly so that I can, and let me do the desktop way of doing this, because I think that'll be a little bit easier. So you can take a peek at my messy screen, and then we will start my Hope for the Holidays 3G grid. We've got grateful and graceful and gritful across the top. And if gratitude, thinking and expressing thankfulness, grace, showing patience and generosity, and grit is this idea of passion for persistence and long-term goals. We're going to tweak that definition. We're going to borrow a little bit and be flexible, because what I wanted to do to share a bunch of advice with a bunch of people who are all at different points in getting ready for holidays in the time of COVIDia part 2. And that was to revisit something that, if you've seen me talk about the We Got This sticker, you know that I talk about surviving when the whole point is to stay alive, or it feels like our life is in danger. Reviving when we get ourselves together and don't feel immediately at threat, and we're ready to get ourselves back to normal or create a new normal. And thriving when we're really ready for some advanced growth. And I asked myself, if you're surviving, if you're barely getting by, if you feel like you're just holding on, what's the base level for gratitude? And it's really easy. It's the big stuff. It's if you grab a piece of paper and say, name a couple things right now that if they disappeared, you'd know you miss them. And hopefully your very life hops up there. I'm alive. Yay, I'm thankful for that. And to be able to think of a couple big things that are pretty easy for you to say, yes, as poopy as my world is right now, there's a couple things I'm grateful for. I'm not trying to get you to take away how awful you're feeling, frustration, anger, grief. This is not about either or, it's about both and. And it's about the tremendous research out there that says when we practice gratitude, writing down 2 or 3 things that we're grateful for on a daily or even weekly basis. There's studies that say 5 minutes on a Sunday afternoon, writing in a journal, what am I grateful for, has a boost in confidence, in outlook, in satisfaction in life that lasts 5 to 6 days. So if things are really hard, a basic, what's the big stuff? If you're ready for a little bit of a challenge and reviving energy seems right, then it's when what is the little things? What are the little tiny marshmallows in my day that lift me up? What's a tiny little delight? A friend of mine a few months ago, my walking buddy, Sophia, gave me a book, the Book of Tiny Delights, where somebody, an author, I'm blanking on his name, decided to write a book in a year where every day he wrote a short essay about some tiny delight. And it's a pretty fascinating read that he finds these very small things to spend time really cherishing, really savoring. Now, when you're ready to kick butt, now I was going to send some of you all a link in advance to look at this thing called existential gratitude. But beware, this is not for some of you right now, because this is finding ways to be thankful for even the big, hard, yucky, scary stuff that's in your life. Not being thankful instead of it, but to say, you know what? I'm getting some out of this horrible. I'm not glad it happened. I don't think being grateful for things that have come out of something happening is saying, oh, yippee, I'm so glad COVID happened. No, it's since it happened, I'll tell you a couple of things that come out of it. And I'll tell you this right now. If it wasn't for COVID, I wouldn't be sitting here giving a virtual presentation to 70 people. I had politely declined virtual trainings my whole life, all the way up until the moment COVID said, it's this or nothing. So I'll never jump up and down and be happy that COVID happened. But I will say to you that I have found lots to be grateful for in the time of COVID. And there's actually a research model where somebody is testing the concept of what they call existential gratitude. And there's 10 questions they ask you to measure your ability to be grateful. And I'm not going to unshare this screen and paste these, but I'm going to read a couple, and then I promise you, and I'm going to paste these in the screen. But last night I unshared my screen, and I did that. I forgot to reshare, and no one told me. So they said, we never saw the rest of your grid. My life is full of hardships and suffering, but I can still count my blessings. I am grateful that my inner resources have increased as a result of overcoming adversities. I am thankful that I have something to live for, even though life has been very hard. I am grateful that every crisis represents an opportunity for me to grow. Do you see where I'm going with that? You don't have to do this all the time. You don't have to do this ever. My thought is, are there some times when you're ready for some 201, 301, a graduate level class in gratitude? Let's jump over to grace, being patient, having generosity. If life is so hard right now that you are down in the survival mode, I think the easy thing to do is to put this towards yourself and ask yourself, how can I be patient with myself? We've got something towards the end here I'm very excited to show you. Oh, time keeps going. I've got so much I want to share. Reviving is about extending this outward, extending it to the people that it's easy for you to have patience and generosity. And when you're ready to thrive, that's when you try passing it out to everyone, just like the loving kindness meditation. You start with yourself, you extend it outward as far as you can for as long as you can, until, my friends, you can't. And then you stop and you go back a level and say, let me keep it here for now. And then I can test that again. Grit, the idea of persevering despite encountering obstacles. I think I think it's worth tweaking this a little bit to say, if you're in survival mode, make the long-term goal making it through today. What is the activity? What is the mindset that you can adopt to just get you to bedtime, to get you to brush your teeth? when you're ready for some reviving energy, I think it's good to think in terms of what can I do this week? What can I do this month that might help me find some joy, feel my grief, tend to my wounds? What can I do this week to help me persist and persevere over something that I'm trying to move in direction of? And then when we're ready to thrive, it is true that there's possibilities to think about this year and this lifetime and really thinking big and saying, in what ways do I need to push through some discomfort and maybe do some things that fall into the need to do list, not necessarily the want to do list, so that I can get to these bigger goals. And again, before I jump to some things I created just for you, just for this session, I want to review something I know some of you have heard me talk about, and it's the 3 questions anytime you're dealing with change and challenge. And I think these holidays, just like the last holidays, have more than their share of change and challenge. What is it time to let go of? What will be important to hold on to? And what could be useful to look forward to? I believe that balancing out, letting go, saying goodbye to people, saying goodbye to things, saying goodbye to the way things used to be, saying goodbye to the way the way we wish things were, the way we want them to be, the way we hope them to be, the way we thought they were going to be. Because every time we hold on to the way we think it should be, we're fighting with reality. There's this great gal, Byron Katie. She says, I try to see things as they are, because when I don't, I'm arguing with reality. And when you argue with reality, you only lose about 100% of the time. Anytime you're saying, I wish this person was that, I wish things were different, you're setting yourself up for suffering. Now, that doesn't mean we can't aspire. I think there's time for nostalgia. We're going to talk about nostalgia in a second. But I think the extent to which we can say, let's look at the way things are, let's give up a little bit of the way we thought things were, the way things used to be, so that we can find something good to hold on to and maybe find something to look forward to. And let's talk about nostalgia really quickly. Nostalgia is this, oh wait, let me stop sharing my screen so I can see more people. Boop, boop, boop. I'm always sad when there we go. Things like looking forward to a vacation. That's a good one. I don't think I understand the last question. So when we're talking about letting go, it is about saying goodbye. When we're talking about holding on, it's what are we going to take with us? And then what might be useful to look forward to? Are there hopeful things that we can think about in the future that's going to say, this today might be hard? If I think about the fact that I know this shot is going to hurt, I'm going to go get vaccinated. I know there's a chance I might have some short-term not feeling good. The big picture is on the other side, I'm going to feel better and more protected. This holiday period might be hard for some people. Somebody shared they've lost some of their loved ones around the holidays in the last couple of years. And to know that this holiday is going to be harder than maybe some of the ones in the future, when there's a little more grieving done and a little bit more loss that is processed. Nostalgia is where we get trapped, I think. A little bit of nostalgia can be so much fun. Remember the good old days. It's so lovely. Too much nostalgia, I think what happens is we, number one, sometimes color in the memories in certain ways where we remember all the happy, good stuff and we delete the stuff that was maybe not so great. And it makes the nostalgic past seem a little cheerier, a little brighter, a little more colorful than it actually was. And then it also makes it really hard to measure up. The present isn't possibly going to be as good as this sort of colorized version of the past. And some nostalgia is good, but I wanted to show you that there are different sizes of nostalgia. And you know, one of the things that they tell us about enjoying Thanksgiving dinner while trying to also be healthy is that we might choose portion control. We might say, I'm going to have some of all that good stuff I like, and I'm not going to look at calories, and I'm not going to worry about too much. I'm just going to watch the portions a little bit. And to know that a little bit of nostalgia is yummy. A lot of it can feel good, but start having cost. And too much of it gets in the way. What else is on my list to make sure that I say, oh, so we got that. Oh, I love this one. This is my you can. And one of the things I think we need to be better at doing is giving up some of the expectations and the ideal and actually lowering our expectations. Let me explain the thermostat of expectations. Have you heard the point that when you're trying to save energy in your home, one of the good things to do is drop your temperature, your thermostat down just a couple of degrees in the winter and tolerate just a little bit colder, and you save all this energy? Well, I want you to think about a thermostat of expectations that lowers your expectations so that you're a little bit less prone to the disappointment when something doesn't seem as amazing as you had in your mind. Normally, I'm a person, as an optimistic, positive person, I like to have sky high expectations. And I say, oh, I'm going to do this and it's going to do this. And that can be useful when it comes to goal setting. But when it comes to enjoying an experience, really high expectations are really hard to live up to. And so sometimes a gift that we can give ourselves and other people is to say, you know what, let's lower the expectations. Let's just bring this down a little bit. And one of the things is to lob no balls instead of snowballs, to lob no balls around to each other and say, I'm going to say no to that. I need to say no to that extra commitment. I'm not going to bring 3 things to dinner. I'm going to bring 1. I'm not going to travel to the other state to visit, to gather with the family, even though we've done it for many years. Last year, it turned out helped me preserve my sanity, and it's valuable to me. So I'm going to lob a no ball. I love that too. So I've got thermostat of expectations. I've got no balls. I better cross these off because I've got a couple more I want to make sure we get to. But here is my you can. And when I made this, I had this brilliant idea for a point I wanted to make with you. And I made this up. And then I came in the next morning and I forgot what it stood for. And my first reaction was, it was like a little pep talk. Yes, you can. Yes, you can, Paul. And then I remembered what the purpose is when I looked at the other side. And the point was, just because you can do something doesn't mean you should do something. And there are so many of us that take on responsibilities at work, at home, in life, because we can, because we're good at it, because why not? Because somebody asked, and technically I've got time, technically I've got the resources to pull that off. Just because you can does not mean you should. So make sure you put some you can on your shelf for holidays. I have 2 more things if I have the guts to share. I have one, I don't know if I'll have the guts to share, but we're going to try. But let me tell you something, that this eggnog mug is being relabeled, and I'm going to invite you, in addition to sipping some eggnog, if you're like me and love eggnog, I want you to try my recipe for enough nog. And I had this idea that we need to sip something called enough nog. And I wrote down earlier this week, Sunday night, Monday morning, I can't remember the exact, I wrote down a bunch of things I wanted to say to you here. And the next day I was feeling so overwhelmed, and there were so many things I wanted to cram into my time with you all. And this, by the way, is the 4th presentation I've had this week. And I went to type these up, and I read this to myself. I am enough. This is enough. They are enough. Today is enough. How this holiday unfolds is enough. I have enough. My home is enough. My life is enough. My effort is enough. My skill set is enough. My current mood is enough. And I came in that morning and I read that and I knew I'm ready for this presentation right now. I don't need to add any more flurries. I don't need to make anything different or better. I just need to do this. And that's when I knew that enough nog was going to be my favorite thing I talked about. I have one more thing I want to, I like that. Enough. Did you see that somebody wrote, Sherry Johnson, enough is a thought, feeling, not an amount. Oh, love it. Oh my gosh. Oh, that's so good. I'm just going to take that in. I am now going to do one more thing before we wrap up, if I have the courage to do it. I am going to sing you a song. I rewrote the lyrics to a Christmas song. I hope it's okay that you hear a Christmas jingle right now. Let me drink some water. I am a fantastic speaker. I am not a singer, so please bear with me. If the mood out there is frightful, while we wish it was delightful, since we've no way to control, let it go, let it go, let it go. Hard stuff doesn't show signs of stopping, though our frustration shows signs of popping. We need to turn it all down low and let it go, let it go, let it go. I was so nervous to do that, and I did it last night, and it didn't stink, and so I had a little more courage today. My friends, it is almost time for me to end this session, and it is almost time for Thanksgiving and the rest of the holidays, whatever you celebrate, how yourself to come. And do you remember once they start coming, they just come, and then boom, we're writing 2022 on our checks. And yes, some of you millennials, some of us still write checks. They're these little paper things. Never mind. And so a lot is going to happen in the next few days, in the next few weeks. And remember, just like marshmallows, what I offered you here today, it's not all for you. If you're in surviving mode this year, just take it light, take a little bit, just start with the basics. If you feel like experimenting with some reviving and thriving, I will remember right now to, let me just paste all of this. Oh, I'm 30 seconds from ending for those of you who have to scoot. Everyone in meeting, let me put this. I love when you all private message me, but the problem is I then need to manually switch back to sending it to everyone, or I just send it to the last person who private messaged me. Can we get the lyrics to the song? Shut up, you're a genius. It'll only take me a second. That is so fabulous. You want this? Only, wait, who asked that? Sandy, listen, I will paste them here if you promise that at least once you will look in a mirror and you will actually sing them. You won't just read them. If you promise that in the comments, I will go look them up and paste them. I promise. Okay, Sandy's in. You are allowed to copy and paste these if you like. All I ask is that you don't even have to have anyone in the room. At least once, you don't just read them. You don't just sing them in your head. You actually sing them out loud like I did. Because I will tell you that I wrote the lyrics and I loved them and I thought them in my head. The first time I tried to sing them out loud and I heard myself say, let it go, let it go, let it go. It felt so good. I do want to honor everyone's time. I would love right now to remove my spotlight. So there's going to be let's go to grid view here, gallery. And I'm going to ask you to do me a huge favor and wave to your screen as if we were waving to the people watching this on YouTube. I'm just going to do that for about 10 seconds. Thank you, everyone. It's so awesome that you're here.